we're going to get started, but I'm going to ask you, Ludvig, to pronounce your name how you want it pronounced for the rest of going forward for the season. Because I know last week at the Ryder Cup there was some different pronunciations. So here's your opportunity to let people know how you want people to say it.
I feel like I haven't been consistent enough with it, so I'll take the blame for that. I'm sorry. And in Swedish, there's a little circle above my A, so that makes it pronounced Öberg. I know it's a little difficult. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, that's the way it is.
Ludvig Aberg.
Yes, perfect.
Was that pretty good?
That was good.
All right. Well, welcome, Ludvig. Congratulations on a great week last week. Obviously, the European Ryder Cup team were victorious over the US, and you had a really good debut there. So just let us in on what that was like for the experience for you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was unbelievable for me to first off be a part of it, but then also to come out victorious was unbelievable. It was a dream come true for me to, once in your career be able to be a part of a Ryder Cup, and I was very fortunate to have Captain Luke pick me. So obviously had a lot of good experiences, a lot of fond memories that I'll never forget. But obviously really happy to be here as well.
I guess the next thing that everybody wants to know is what were the celebrations like? How are you feeling? And being here after a lengthy trip.
My flight on Monday, I was pretty tired. I slept for a couple hours, but we had a really fun night. On Sunday, everyone came into the team room that we had, and it was really cool to be a part of. Those are the things that you dream of as a kid, and especially as a young boy in Sweden growing up. That's what you want to be a part of, and I don't think I'll ever want to miss one again in the future.
And just before we take some questions, this is your first trip here to the Sanderson Farms Championship. You've had a chance to see, I think, just 9 holes. What's your first impression of
Yeah, so I played 9 yesterday, played 9 today, so I've actually seen all of them. But it was good. It's really nice, great shape. Greens are fast and really true. So, the golf course itself is pretty straightforward. I feel like it's very, what you see is what you get, which for me is pretty nice because, I don't need to put that much, thought and effort into it. I can kind of trust my caddy on that stuff. So, but really, really good shape and looking forward to a nice couple of days.
Okay, if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll get one to you. It's right behind.
Just to bounce back to the last 72 hours, just what is that like if you are on top of the world, probably having a great time Sunday night, and then being like, I have to go to Jackson, I have to play a tournament, and kind of grind to, I assume a big part of this is getting into the first 10 as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I knew beforehand, before we played in Rome, that I was committed to this event, and I wanted to honor my commitment and stay here and play, and, It's I know it's good for me. Almost a little selfishly, I know that I wanted to play, and for me to get all these experiences on different golf courses, different tournaments, play as much as I can. I'd like to still think that I'm young and I can handle it. So, but obviously, really happy to be here.
Go again.
And then that has to be this past week has to be a kind of a moment of, you've arrived, right? I mean, you are playing at the Ryder Cup, you're winning 2 points. To then kind of have to also balance that with, all right, I'm a rookie on the PGA Tour, I still have to grind to qualify for certain things. Like, what is that kind of balance like for you as a young guy who has both arrived and still has a lot to kind of do?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I still feel like I have a lot to do, just like you said, and for me to kind of test the waters a little bit with playing in the Ryder Cup and being around those guys and play against, arguably the best players in the world. So for me to have those experiences and knowing what it takes to be the best player in the world, and kind of for me to create a relationship with those guys and hang out with them has been unbelievable. And hopefully that's something that I'll be able to use to my advantage coming into the rest of this year, and then also for the rest of my career. So, but like you said, I still have a lot to play for, and that's why I'm playing these events in the fall.
Go ahead.
In football, coaches talk about having a letdown after a huge victory, and then playing and something that of a little bit less import. Is that something you have to think about or guard against? Do you think you'll have a?
I don't think it'll be something that I'll think. I mean, I'm going to be nervous on Thursday morning, no matter what, and I'm going to view it as a the most important thing in the world as I'm standing on the tee box, obviously. So, obviously last week was an incredible experience for me, but it's also in the past, and I can't really do anything about it. So all I'm trying to do is play as good as I can, try to prepare for this week as good as I can, and at the same time kind of conserve my energy a little bit, because of last week was quite exhausting. But, I'm here this week, and that's where my focus is.
Go again? Yep. You guys can share the mic back and forth.
Fair enough, yeah. First off, you mentioned kind of what it takes to be the best and, the things you learned this past week. First, I guess, what are some things you might have learned?
Yeah, good question. I feel like they're very good at handling their own game, managing their own game. It doesn't matter what the situation is. They know what it takes, and they know their own capabilities, and then just trying to manage your way around the golf course. It sounds very cheesy to say, but they really are masters of it, and that's what I'm striving towards, and that's what I try to get to. I still feel like I have a long ways to go, but for me to kind of get those experiences quite early is great for me.
And then I feel like in the post, celebration press conference and all that, you were kind of sitting in the center, just kind of chilling, pretty quiet. Like, I guess how did you kind of what were you like in the locker room with those guys and just being on this scene? But I don't know if that makes sense, but kind of your role mentally with the guys.
I feel like the dynamic of the group was really fun the whole week. Obviously we had a few experienced guys and a few rookies as well, including myself. So I felt like one of the reasons why the Europeans has been quite successful over the last couple of years is because we have that team camaraderie. I'm not saying the Americans don't, but I know that we do because that's what I've experienced. So, I felt the mutual respect, which I thought was pretty cool. Obviously, I have a lot of respect for those guys, but for me to kind of see that they had that for me was pretty cool and something I'll really appreciate. But yeah, I mean, obviously being one of the younger guys on the team, I was there to learn, but I was also there to try to win some points, and luckily we came out with a trophy.
Is there one moment from last week that'll be the most memorable for you? I mean, you're 23. 50 years from now, is there one thing you'll remember the most?
I think there'll be a lot of things that I'll remember. Obviously everyone talks about that first tee and the nerves and the excitement and anticipation that comes with it, and it was very true. I was shaking, I was nervous, I was feeling all these things that however much you talk about it, you can't really prepare for it until you can't really simulate it. So for me to experience that was really cool. But I do think me and Victor's win on, would that be Saturday morning, was quite memorable.
Okay, anything further? One more behind? Yeah.
And then with you and Victor, I feel like it was almost kind of easy to be like, oh, Scandinavians, but why do you think that partnership worked as well as you did? I mean, two young guys who are probably going to be doing this for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like the captains and the vice captains laid out a good foundation. We went to a team trip a couple of weeks prior, and we played together at Wentworth, and kind of got to know each other quite well during those couple of experiences. So, and then obviously for me, why wouldn't you want to play with arguably one of the best players in the world? And he doesn't miss a shot, so it was really nice to play with. And then we speak the same language kinda, so we can understand each other, and gives you a little bit of comfort in the middle of chaos. And I felt like it was a good partnership. Yeah.
Ludvig, is it meaningful for you to that could be a record that stays for a long time, 9-7, best victory in the Ryder Cup. Is that meaningful to you, or is it something that's just in the bigger picture, it's at the rear window now? I
mean, obviously it's very cool. It's something that I'll never forget, and I'll always have that with me. But for me, if we didn't win on Sunday, I don't think that would have meant as much. I think the most important thing was to keep the trophy, or to get the trophy back to Europe. But yeah, I mean, it was really cool. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. We're just going to do a couple in Swedish, and we'll finish up.